Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twice Bitten After Dark. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
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 Are we live?
We are indeed, and it's after dark. You know what that
Oh,
means.
it's after dark. After dark.
What?
All right, so welcome
I
everybody.
just took a sip of my beer for that.
Oh, beautiful. All right, welcome everyone to the third Twice Bitten After Dark. I'm Dragnacarta, DM of Twice Bitten. I've got here Jack, Linus, and Twy of Metron, Amity, and Aerthrendir, respectively. Kaya, who plays Lillison, will be joining us shortly as well. So, again, welcome to everyone who's tuning in. Feel free to put any questions you might have in the chat. Let us know if there are any audio or video issues. But with that said, Twy, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, gladly. And also a quick thing as regards those questions. If you could put question in all caps before them, that will help me tremendously in collecting them for later. Thank you.
So how's everybody doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. There is a massive fuck off thunderstorm encroaching on my house, so pray for me. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, so it has been a long time since last After Dark. Our literal last one was right after Death House. So we've got a lot. Also, I believe that's Kaya. Hello, Kaya.
It is indeed. Hello.
Kara.
Welcome.
Literally just got home from work, so hi.
Well, glad to have you. We're about to get started.
Excellent.
Alrighty. So, first thing is first, what's kind of dominated the last bit of, well, this particular stream has been our first encounter with Strahd. How are we
Who's that?
feeling
Who's
about
that? I don't know who that is.
you,
I don't
you
know
know
him.
that fucker, the guy the module's named after. How are we feeling about him?
The really tall one?
I think so. Yeah,
The
that
one who
boy.
is somehow taller than even our own Amity, the queen of being more tall than anybody
Tall
thinks.
than everybody. Exactly. Honestly, it's like a superpower. taller than
My
most
head
people.
canon is that we all crest above at least like 6'5" to 7 feet. So
I'm all for this.
You're going to
Above
be
the
sorely
canopies.
disappointed.
Tall spitting.
that's why it's called head canon. It's all in my head.
Yes, it's because their heads are above the clouds.
But yeah, no, that messed me up. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, same. Like, I'd been kind of running this guy for years, and it's just, oh, Strahd. He's so much fun. He's such a good villain. He's got motivations. It's like, no, fuck this guy. I hate him. I want him to die.
Yeah, it was good. Because I'm not super far ahead in my own campaign, and even then I'm like dripping him out. It's more like kind of taking like the sort of hidden monster alien predator kind of thing approach to it. So I haven't really had a chance to utilize him. So it was definitely like a bit of a masterclass in that regard to be like, oh, okay, this is one way to do it, and terrifying way.
Honestly, it's really interesting because this is not a way that I've run Strahd before, so I'm honestly really enjoying it. And also, I don't know what people are talking about. I'm having the time of my life. There's nothing frightening or spooky at all. This is just wonderful.
One of these days, I will run Strahd for you, Dragna, and then we will see how the turntables.
Bring it on.
When you say turntables, I just now imagine him as a DJ, like
DJ Strahd.
Rave Strahd.
DJ Strahd.
Necrodancer Strahd. I'm all for it.
So, Jack, when
Nah.
you say you're dripping him out, I'm sorry, but like my brain just stopped there.
God.
Yeah, no, it was intentional.
Okay. Well,
When it's Jack, it's always intentional.
Drizzling
Yes.
it out, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's a fairly good rule of thumb. I was not expecting Strahd that early. Like, honestly, I was
at all.
not expecting
Not at all.
to come across him
Oh
on that
God,
road.
no.
Yeah. I really like the way that Dragna portrayed him. It definitely came across as, a despotic ruler making that first impression in a very deliberate way, and I appreciated that, and Lillison appreciated that. Um, and I think that we actually might have come out of it feeling less completely disoriented than the rest of the party.
Honestly, I believe it.
No. um, I mean, so first things first. I think that one of the really key things that made that so effective, in my opinion, was that, and it's touched on in the beginning of the module, how Strahd is essentially an abuser, and there was a lot of behavior there that was very patterned after some kind of abusive archetypes, especially like the disregarding of Irina when she thinks that she's been the object of his obsession, to just be like, oh, I don't care about you. I'm going to mess with these people now. It's just this kind of like give and take thing that happens in those sort of unfortunate relationships. But yeah, Metron is, he's clearly okay though. He's totally fine.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that because, like I can't even take credit for that. That's just part of the module, and I'm not sure if that was intentional of Perkins or whoever added that bit in, that he decides to ignore Irina.
It's in the foreword of the book.
I mean,
they
that's
call it
fair.
Shit.
Well, not that he's an abuser, but that setting Irina aside, is evidence that has that abusive view of her. But either way, I agree that it does work, unfortunately, very effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I won't spoil it for anyone who listens or watches this and doesn't actually know the ending or one of the potential endings. But it's it's something that keeps coming up, and the reason it stood out for me though was that in a lot of other people's games that I've seen or heard about or read about, like they kind of touch on it, but they don't really like crystallize it in such a concrete way. And to actually experience it was very frightening in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's really visceral, especially with how violent Dragna's been playing him, like right from the outset. Like that combined with it was a very effective 1-2 punch of power of like helplessness and abject horror, which is really what you need in D&D to get people to realize, kind of actually drive that horror home. But like, god damn, just like the fucking both the bites, the charm, and just fucking, I mean, personally, him just kind of just looking at Earthrendir and just being, you disappoint me, and just fucking tearing a hole in his chest. I'm just, okay, I would like this man to fuck off, please.
Yeah, I think a big part of that like, because developing that initial scene was a lot harder. Like I'd been preparing that for a while, but like I kept drafting it and redrafting it and going back over it in my head, because I think that for Strahd, first off, first impressions are insanely important, and because of that, I think a part of my experience running this campaign multiple times sort of helped in that respect, and that I know, what happens when I play Strahd in a way that doesn't quite work. Like I know in the first campaign that I ran, Linus can speak to this. Strahd's first encounter was very different. He
Speak
showed
to
up.
it.
Right.
Yeah, Linus, what do you remember of it actually?
Are you talking about the encounter at the funeral in the Barovia church where he like
Yeah,
sent
yeah.
a bunch of wolves on us? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
So I know that in our campaign originally, we definitely didn't like hate Strahd, hate his guts with a passion until the mid-end game. I think there were some secret plans in the secret player chat where we were talking about how to like prank him. I don't think we ever managed to do that, but we weren't like planning on how to kill him.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is the fact that, in our campaign, I made a big mistake that I think I don't know if it's a mistake for, campaigns to do it if they do so intentionally, but in our campaign, I had Strahd show up and immediately go after Irina, which I think a lot of campaigns do, where he showed up, he sicked some wolves in the PCs because the PCs were there with Irina and his mark at the funeral, and he said, Irina, come to me, my love, and he just like charmed her, and the PCs had to like fight off the wolves. And I feel like a lot of the impact was lost because A, the PCs weren't the target of Strahd's attentions, and B, it was very clear that Strahd could take what he wanted, but wasn't doing so for some bizarre reason. So, I think, coming from that perspective, obviously the book says, when the PCs arrive, Strahd, sets aside Irina. But I think it was running that encounter in my first campaign and having that experience that really informed my belief that, really, Irina should not be the focus here. It should 100% be on the PCs. And I think that when it went a lot into informing how I wound up running the Black Carriage encounter.
It reminds me also, it's not that infrequent that we see newer DMs come into the Discord and be like, oh, I think I made some sort of mistake. I had Strahd show up for the first time and say, Irina, come to me. And the PCs were all like, all right, Irina, go to him. What do I do now? And yeah, I think that focusing on the PCs and being like, this is in fact your problem, circumvents a lot of the issues that a lot of parties have. Not saying our party would have it, but a lot of parties have with like, they don't care about Irina and they see offloading her as the fastest way to get Strahd off their backs.
What do I do if I already screwed that up in my campaign?
Yeah, same. I mean, it's long finished, but like,
I mean,
still.
isn't your campaign the one where like one of the players became a werewolf and another player like ran off or something?
Right. Currently, Irina is in Castle Ravenloft, having been taken by Strahd in my campaign, and the players, despite having found her, are like, I don't think we should actually rescue you because Strahd can like find you pretty easily. And so she's just gonna be there.
Heroism.
Yeah.
I mean, they're saying like, okay, yeah, we're gonna come back for you, like when we, kill Strahd.
When we kill his ass.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Nah, I get it.
Like, it's not like it's a terrible choice. It's just, I guess, now Strahd will be focused on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like in setting up this initial encounter, like a lot of the difficulty was like, because the book says, when Strahd wishes to torment the PCs, he just shows up, he brings minions, etc. But I think that for me the hardest part was like, what does he actually do? What is he looking to accomplish? Which was just bizarre to me because, like, there are these random people in your land, like attacking them outright, personally. It seems beneath him. It seems petty. It seems bizarre, and like, it feels kind of pointless. It feels like an insult to Strahd and to the PCs, where like obviously they're not going to be able to get out of this, and like there's something to be said for making a situation hopeless. But this is part of the reason why like I keep saying in the Curse of Strahd Discord that Strahd follows rules such as not being able to enter into a threshold that I think make the PCs dealings with him more interesting. And in this case, like having Strahd just like start unarmed striking the PCs and like casting Firebolt just like made no sense to me because like they've done nothing to provoke that. And like clearly that will ruin his efforts to corrupt them later. And so like it took a lot of thinking to finally think like, oh, he's going to try to charm them and bite them because he's still tormenting them, he's fucking with them, he's making them have a terrible time, but he's reserving the right to come back later while also keeping this sort of very queasy plausible deniability for, oh, I didn't actually mean you harm, I was just testing you. So it was honestly a really tricky tightrope to walk on. I'm glad it seemed to have gone off well.
Yeah, you did do really good.
Now, what about the second time?
Oh, the second time.
Oh, that second time. Somehow, I also did not expect that to happen the second time either.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Like,
Yeah, no, that one really got me.
Who sends Strahd to siege the players in Vallaki? Who does that?
Apparently me.
Show up in Vallaki till the feast. It's just like, no, stay out. This isn't for you.
yeah, I mean, especially for Metron, I think he feels super unsafe at this point because he came to Vallaki.
No, Jack, this is a rules as written campaign, and the book says Vallaki.
Yeah. Vallaki. What was I saying? So the fact that he came here thinking it was, everyone thought it was this bastion of hope. You should watch that episode, by the way. But now that's obviously been defiled, so at least there's the church, right?
Oh god, we're gonna die.
It's weird though because there is a consequence towards playing Strahd so aggressively early game, which is that like when he comes to Blue Water Inn and says "Let me in," I mean, are you gonna say no at that point? I don't know. Maybe the rest of you were saying no.
We were all saying no. You were the only one who said yes.
Okay, well, our party has 4 short-sighted idiots and 1
One.
wise and intelligent.
I mean, yeah, of course, but what about the rest of y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, both in terms of, what you guys thought was, your in-character takeaway and out of character, like what kind of effect do you think that that encounter had?
In character, I feel like, at least to me, that kind of initial presumption of Valaki's safety, which is kind of just mentioned offhand by Ismark, that he's going there because he thinks it's the best place. It's just like, taking that away makes things a lot more reactive and a lot more desperate, because it's just like, oh fuck, he can find us anywhere. Nowhere we go is safe, nothing we do is safe, and our continued survival is dependent on being entertaining. At least that's what Earthrendeer took from it.
That's a good point.
So, out of character, I know that pretty much any decisions we made would have been twisted to be the wrong ones.
Yep.
But in character, Lilistone was actually very heartened to see how readily and unfearfully Danica and Erwin were just like, no, you can't come in. Because as far as she knows, they're just like normal people. They're just innkeepers and they're not afraid. So that sort of implied to her that you can in fact just say no to Strahd and he can't do anything about it. Which I know is incorrect, but that did sort of feed into a bit of why she would not have just cowered. Although she did end up just cowering anyway, because she was stuck in the room with Metreon, and it seemed wise to not open the door. If not, getting attacked from the front. If she opened the door, she's pretty sure that Metreon might have like hit her from behind.
Phrasing.
Damn it.
No, I don't think Metron would have done that. He would have let her go, and immediately, with all of his strength, shoved the wardrobe up against the door after you left. And I know I talked about a little bit about it already, but I think it was much more traumatic for him because he was told not only by Ismark, but then also by Father Lucian. And I think there was some other, like maybe it was like the guard or something like that, who were like, yeah, this is a perfectly safe place to be. Like, he's never been here. He's not going to be here. The walls are fortified. You're safe. And so to have like everyone that he's kind of like, not necessarily trusted, but at least seen some sort of goodness and genuineness in them, authenticity. To see that kind of like dashed feels very. He's in a very precarious place right now.
Yeah, no, I think that kind of like. I'm not sure it's the worst place the party's ever been, like emotionally. I think that's still Death House, but it was close. It was running.
I don't know. I thought we were pretty traumatized right after the carriage. I feel like that was for everybody. Like getting to.
I feel like there was enough immediate danger that we didn't have time to snipe at each other too much, but I can see that. Like that was the one where like nothing immediately needed to be done. It just kind of exploded. Or it might just be me, because as you remember, Earthrendeer had a bad reaction to all that.
Entirely reasonably.
Dragna, for people using this campaign as sort of a guide for themselves, would you recommend these people in the audience run Strahd like you did just now?
So I think it comes down to, because that's a really good question, I think it comes down to what you're looking to accomplish with Strahd. And this is something I've kind of laid out a number of times when people have asked me about this before, either in the server or the subreddit. There are 3 ways to play Strahd. You can play him the way that I'm playing him in Twice Bitten, which is, this as rules as written, very gothic horror, abusive, monstrous vampire tyrant who is in your face. He is tormenting you. He's making sure you have a terrible time, and you cannot escape him. That is very effective for running this kind of gothic horror campaign, I think. It's very much, this Dracula-esque vibe, and I think that's very powerful if that's what you're going for. The other options, of course, are, running Strahd as a more diplomatic relationship. This is what I did somewhat when I ran my Curse of Strahd Reloaded game, and what, Reloaded as a guide takes a lot from, where Strahd is, distant for like the early part of the game, and then like slowly over the course of the PCs making themselves more well known, like shows up and does things like, he'll show up at Yester Hill and congratulate the PCs if they beat the Druids. He'll invite them to dinner and like actually sit down to have dinner with them, which he will not do. Rules as written. He might try to tempt the PCs. He might give them quests, but like over time through his abusive tendencies, his monstrosities, and especially Irina, his treatment of her, the PCs will inevitably come to oppose him. And I think that Irina here is actually key because of two things. First, this approach requires that the PCs be heroic, because if the PCs are not heroes, if they're more neutral or villainous, A, they'll let Irina go, which means they'll never have any motivation to take on Strahd. And B, unless the PCs came here specifically to defeat Strahd in the first place, like a group of non-heroic PCs will just wind up at the Emperor Temple crying after accepting 5 dark gifts and going on a bender, and that's how the campaign will end. There is no happy ending to that sort of campaign. So I think it has to be very carefully done, and you really need that A, heroic through line, and B, that big focus on Irina in order to make it satisfying and to make the players have a reason to hate Strahd. Because without Irina, Strahd is just, your standard issue, as Fiona would put it, negligent feudal landlord. He's just some, noble up in his castle who, occasionally, is an asshole. And, if he's got, plausible deniability for, the Feast of St. Angel, because, Ludmilla's doing it, and he's, just being kind of, aloof and aristocratic in his castle and sort of diplomatic, then there's not really a lot of opportunity for the players to oppose him, unless Strahd himself does something to personally alienate the PCs, and I think Irina is necessary for that. So if you're working with a non-heroic group of PCs, or you're not willing to make Irina, so to speak, the main character of the story, I think the traditional Gothic approach of the monstrous tyrant and the pursuer are a lot more, maybe not effective, but certainly more reasonable and easy to run.
So I was also given some bullet points from Serena, who unfortunately was not able to be here today, except she's in chat. So yes, just she's slapping down her thesis, and I will deliver it for her. So she says, and she runs a female Strahd. Before experiencing Strahd in this way, I thought the more narratively boring choice as DM was to make Strahd a visible antagonist from the start. I wanted to lean much more into the manipulative abilities of Strahd, her capability for behind-the-scenes evil doing. Perhaps that was partly due to my own fears of being. I don't know how this is supposed to be interpreted, so I'm just going to interpret it my own way. Perhaps that was partly due to my own fears of being a DM. Trying to run a Strahd worthy as terror as a first-time DM, but it was also because I was raised on horror films, and after your 800th slasher movie, you start to wonder why people don't try to do more and defy the tropes we're all accustomed to. It's why I loved Hereditary. It builds on itself, it allows the characters at times to have hope, only for that hope to be dashed away entirely by Act 5, and I wanted my Strahd game to feel like that. As a player, however, I've really come to appreciate how exciting and terrifying immediate villain Strahd is. Right off the bat, we were shown that we were not only incredibly outmatched, but there was no way to trick him, to get sympathy, no way to just fly under the radar. Strahd's power is nigh unlimited, and sometimes just leaning on that fact is enough. You can still explore his ability to manipulate or deceive, but all the showmanship that I relied on really isn't necessary. There is a reason he has endured for as long as he has.
I think just to add on to that, it was probably more scary for us because we know what we know about him, and we've all kind of had have our own interpretations of him. But to be at the mercy of someone who we know their capabilities and what they're able to do, and kind of seeing the vast imbalance of power in that moment. I think, at least for me, it definitely made it much more tense.
Oh, yeah, I'll hard agree there that, the mechanics of it, of, knowing a crit from him insta-kills anyone immediately. A bite from him that rolls high damage insta-kills anyone immediately. It's just, there's really not much like it. It is, yeah, it's fucking... Whew.
Yeah, bold to do the bite thing when I guess Strahd could have made it non-lethal damage.
So he couldn't do non-lethal damage. I will refrain from answering whether I had anything in store if he were to get a little too excited when taking this drink. Let's say.
Oh, happens to anyone with a new person.
I mean, Randy seemed to get him the most excited.
Indeed. Oh god. Let's move on. Strahd encounters. Irina, Ismark, great people, great people. I did not expect to like them as much as I did. And like to end up like depending on them as much as I did. And I'm not sure if that y'all would echo that, but like Ismark especially kind of I didn't really think he'd be as much of an anchor as he ended up being.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I'm ambivalent. You know. No, I'm not. I wasn't expecting that betrayal either, and yeah, I totally agree. He's been much more of an anchor into the story and to the characters in a way that I wasn't expecting.
I'm curious, how did you guys run Ismark in your own campaigns that made your expectations so different?
I guess my portrayal of Ismark was heavily influenced by the portrayal of the DM who ran it. I played literally one session of Curse of Strahd before I started running it for my own, in which he was basically like well-meaning but essentially useless. And I feel like my Irina was really just sort of the heart and the anchor of not only the party but also like sort of the family before. And like my Ismark did not come with the party. He stayed behind to run the village of Barovia, not entirely successfully because by the time of the final battle, Strahd had captured him, turned him into a vampire spawn, nailed his feet to the floor of the Heart of Sorrow tower, and like glamored him as himself, just as a trap for the PCs to potentially like run up and kill. And I
Mankaya.
have
Yeah, right.
I think one of my players is still in this chat, but yeah, I could have done so much more with him, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because the spotlight really got shown more on Irina and the relationships that she was trying to build with the other with the PCs as a result.
I actually think that something I just realized, as we were discussing this, is that Barovia as written doesn't really have many financial rewards. There are not many outside of the big two, the holy symbol and the sun sword, and I suppose the icon if you find it. There aren't really many like big treasures or loot to get, and all of the loot you get, the currency, is actually social currency. It's befriending the keepers, it's befriending Esmeralda, and I think here the big payoff, rules as written, of agreeing to the arena quest is you get a CR3 veteran to escort you to Valaki. Like, holy shit, that's really fucking valuable, unless you get a werewolf attack, but like even so.
So what you're saying is that the real treasure is in fact the friends we make along the way.
Frankly, yes.
That's what I mean. I think that's jokingly, yeah, but also sincerely. It's not a campaign that's based around a monetary gain or monetary reward. As much as it is just it's the least heroic module, but it's also the most heroic because again, you're not supposed to be at least motivated by what you might gain as far as like gold or riches or whatever. It's just about like getting the hell out of Dodge and hopefully liberating some people for a short time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like just thinking on the module, like aside from I guess like Berez and the Ember Temple, like there aren't any actual areas that like force you into combat that like aren't avoidable by diplomatic means somehow. Except I guess Bone Grinder maybe. But like
Dexter Hill?
Yeah, Metreon, you haven't had Metreon in front of those ladies.
Diplomacy.
that's fair. Maybe it's closer to 50-50 split. But like there are a lot of factions that can be overcome by like making friends of people in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is interesting. And I'm just been kind of I really my Ismark died very, very, very early on. If any of my players in chat, you know what you did. But
Oh God.
I don't know what they
Did
did.
they kill him?
They abandoned him while he was asleep in the house while it was being sieged by zombies. Left him there for a solid 4 hours while they knew there were creatures tunneling inside and were surprised when they walked in to find his throat had been slit.
Yes, they killed him.
Yes,
Yeah.
they did. Bless their souls. But yeah, I guess it's interesting to me because I feel like a lot of what Ismark have been kind of traits that people graft onto Irina. And I've enjoyed seeing kind of what both of them are without kind of needing to fill both sides of that coin, both needing to be the combat capable anchor, emotional support, and to be they're both it's just I've loved it. It's been really nice.
What about you, Linus?
So in my campaign, Ismark's pretty similar to how he's in Twice Bitten. I mean, at some point he got charmed by Strahd and dueled and killed one of the PCs, as you do.
As you
one
do.
wants to do.
I would say the Irina in my game is sort of trying to help the party using her political savviness, rumor mongering. I will say that earlier, Earthrendeer was like, I didn't expect to like Irina and Ismark as much as I do. I can sort of anti-echo that. I think Amity doesn't like Irina very much. It's nothing personal. It's just that Amity sort of sees them as a lightning rod that may have brought the troubles upon them.
Yeah, no, that's
fair.
accurate.
That's fair.
They absolutely
That's fair.
are.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting if, Strahd arrives while Irina and Ismark aren't around.
Ooh.
All right,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I'm not looking forward.
It's gonna be a hot time. I have nothing to add about Irina and Ismark.
That is fair.
Other than mine is a telekinetic teenager and his is Ismark is a himbo who works at a diner. So that's about it.
I mean, Ismark always has to be a himbo. That's just natural law.
Oh yeah, totally. But I wouldn't even call your Ismark a himbo because he's not dumb. He is oblivious, but he's not dumb.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's just straightforward.
Well, about Irina, again, Serena has given me some bullet points to talk about Irina. This should shock nobody. So she
Does it have
said,
hearts all around it?
no, but if you want, I will add them.
Thank you.
Do it.
Please.
So she says, I feel like this question highlights one of my fundamental problems with the module and speaks to a larger problem when it comes to representing women well in mediums that are still heavily dominated by men. In the late 90s, Gail Simone coined the phrase women in refrigerators to describe the ways that various female superheroes, or just the women in male superheroes' lives, have been mutilated and abused for plot purposes in comic books. These women didn't have lives or stories of their own. They existed purely to give the heroes a reason to exact revenge or a reason to don the suit in the first place. Their deaths weren't meaningful, they were just a dramatic way to fuel man pain. In a lot of ways, Irina and Tatiana fall into that trap. In 5e, even with the massive expansion of characters and locations, Tatiana isn't even given a last name. There's no information about her family or her life before Strahd took over. You get a full page on Rahadin, a man who, rules as written, PCs can only encounter in two places. You get a full page on Petalwick II, the puppet who rolls around Ravenloft. But we only get a couple of paragraphs about Irina, a creepy and vaguely incestuous subplot with a brother, who again you're given more backstory on, and the only time either Tatiana is mentioned in the module itself in any sort of detail is in the Ravenloft chapter and the Vampire's History section. For a module that states that Strahd's unrequited love for Tatiana drove him to slay his brother, they really go out of their way to make sure we know as little as possible about her. Sure, arguments can be made for clarity, not wanting the module to be too long, etc., but I do think the real reason is that Irina and Tatiana were not written to be characters, they were written to be plot devices. Women in refrigerators, women meant to be locked away in crypts, it's all the same. I think your point that once Strahd can easily put aside one of his three main goals for a party of PCs who ostensibly come into his land as very squishy and unimpressive level 3 adventurers proves that Irina's role was always very clear to the writers. She is window dressing. She has no role or purpose other than to be claimed. Even at the end, even though Irina is a whole other person with a whole other life, what happens to her? Sergei takes her away. For Irina and Tatiana, they do not get a life. They get to be passed back and forth from von Zarevich to von Zarevich until the end of time. And I personally would like to add on what Serena has said here. I made a point in my game to run Irina as not only just like, yes, she is a completely separate person from Tatiana. Like, my Irina did not even remember all that much about like being Tatiana, but she also made a point to be somebody who had opinions about life in Barovia. She was proud of being a Barovian, even though, she also acknowledged that life could suck there. She took a pretty anti-colonialist stance when some of the PCs were edging too close towards like, oh, one day, it would be great if Barovia like had these, this detail and that detail, from my homeworld, like everybody would be so much happier. She'd be like, no, I appreciate that you're trying to do good for this land, but this is our land. We know our land, and don't try to impose your values on us. So I think that it's very important that if you're going to make Irina a character in your campaign, you have to think her through the way that you would for a PC.
I guess the most I can say, beyond, other commentary, first off, is just drop that fucking mic, Serena, and Kaya too. Because
Y'all made some
excellent
points.
Excellent points.
Yes, Serena, please publish your 15-part essay.
I'll fucking read it.
I will say, though, that Piddlewick 2 deserves every last word of his write-up, and I won't hear anything else about it.
I'm prepared to concede that point. But yeah, I think regarding Serena's point and Kaya's addition, like the fact that Irina is as written, this just plot device to be passed around is, I think, I think it's incredibly accurate. I mean, obviously, first off, like not saying that it's obvious, but it like Irina is as written. She has no character aside from like one sentence. Like she is, I think, paraphrasing from memory, like she is quiet and keeps to herself, but she has a strong will. Or quiet and reserved, but has a strong will. And like, what the fuck does that mean? There's nothing there. Like, even Ismark gets more than her, where it says that, he's been training for his life to kill Strahd. Well, what about Irina, who's been pursued by Strahd? How does she feel about this? What does she want to accomplish? And like, I think you can kind of see, like, exactly how much I've had to torture her character by, adding in things and facets that could reasonably interpreted to be there, while not actually being present within the module. Irina's the one place where I have to veer very, very, very close to crossing away from rules as written, just because like the way her character is handled in the book is just utterly nonsensical.
I was actually really impressed by how much you were able to put into Irina without going off onto one of the the community has some very defined ideas about how to enhance her, some of which I agree with more than others, but I really admire that you're able to make her feel like a full character without turning her into somebody else.
Yeah, hard agree there. Because like you extrapolated from the background and the circumstances the module gave you and figured out a personality from there. It makes sense. It is completely rules as written, but it's also, God, so much better.
I will say that, even though she's not here, big, huge shout out and thank you to Serena, because without Kiva's, I mean, obviously, intentional from an OOC meta perspective, but not intended for this purpose. Without Kiva's interest in Irina and that relationship that Serena has invested in building, I would not have been able to reveal nearly as much of this. And I think Irina's ultimate, plot culmination, wherever that might look, would not have been nearly half as potentially satisfying. So, like, player character investment matters when you're trying to determine these kinds of NPCs. So, very, very grateful for that.
I'm into it. Yeah.
Should we throw in a viewer question or two before we?
Yeah, throw it in.
Bring it.
Alrighty. Okay, so from GJ505 from the Reddit thread for Dragna, what's the most surprising or unexpected bit of RP that the players have hit you with up to this point?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Uh, I think it's got to be Metron at the church. I'm I'm split between I don't know how much of that is Jack pushing him in a certain direction versus Metron naturally seeking that out, and I hope Jack doesn't tell me. But I was not expecting that to be the first place he investigated when arriving in Milwaukee. But I gotta say, I'm very pleased with how that turned out. Both on a meta reason because it let me set up Father Lucian and the idea of the Church of Saint Andrew, as well as drop that little hint about the Vistani being able to escape Barovia. But also because on a in character level, like there's a lot of depth there, and I think obviously characters have to start somewhere. Like there's got to be some idea of that, and often that comes from a tropey place. Like Metron is this kind of like fast talking guy, kind of like con man ish performer, that sort of thing. But this kind of exposure and this relationship he seems to be building with Father Lucian, I think, is very fascinating in terms of the depth that it could potentially add. And obviously, I'll defer to Jack on where this actually winds up going and how on point my interpretation is. But I think I'm very intrigued to see where this goes and to see how Metron responds to a certain upcoming event.
Ah,
Mm.
Anyway.
On that happy note,
Moving right along.
yes.
There was a second part to that question.
oh, was there?
Yes. For the players, but feel free to put your DM hat on, Amity's Never Have I Ever was one of the most fun and natural ways of getting PCs to delve into their backstories that I've seen. What's your favorite way of getting your players or your fellow cast members to reveal their secrets?
Cattle prod.
Occasionally necessary.
I don't know. As the player of somebody who very, very much wants to keep her secrets to herself, um, the Never Have I Ever was pretty fun. I look forward to seeing whether people figure out which questions Lillison was lying on.
Lillison lie, never.
Why would we
No,
say
never.
that?
Not ever.
This is +7 to
Don't slander
deception
her.
herself. Ah,
As far as how I as a DM would it, like get my players to open up, I guess I don't know. It's I think it depends on your table's personality, and like all of us are a bunch of like nerds who want to role play, and so any chance we get to like leak our backstories out is an opportunity that we savor. Um, but I think that you can get some of that in like the session 0 and get kind of getting a feel for everyone's vibe. But then throughout the game, I think it's just about like if you see the players not initiating interactions with each other, start figuring out ways to get that to start. So whether it's intervening as an NPC and starting a conversation, then kind of like backing out of that conversation to let a couple of PCs talk to each other and kind of like encourage that, or even mechanically you can give inspiration or something, or bonus XP for performance in RP. It can be anything like that, but I do think it just kind of depends on your table.
yeah. No, this isn't quite relevant to Twice Bitten, but it's something that's done wonders for my game. Is before every session, and I basically have this list of warm-up questions, which are questions about either specific aspects of a PC's backstory or outlook, or their potential reaction to a given situation. And those, more than anything else, kind of took a group of people who were, interested in RPing and, pretty creative, but didn't necessarily know what they wanted out of their characters or kind of where they wanted them to go, really helped flesh them out in an immediate way. Because kind of having to think of, oh, well, even if it's something simple, like, what's your character's favorite food as a child? How would they react if Strahd stepped up and said, I'll let you go, but not anyone else, from stuff that simple to that complicated? It kind of it started a lot of conversations that I did not expect because people are like, "Oh, huh. Well, I guess I know that's how Mr. Lizardfolk Monk is. Let me talk about it." So I will heavily recommend that. It starts so much shit. And steal the questions from the Reddit thread I stole them from, which I just posted in chat because it is the best.
I will say that there's a lot of advice out there for, encouraging reluctant role players to sort of step up and shed their shyness, or, advice as to helping players flesh out their characters more. I was in a rather odd but like very, it was an honor to be in this situation where my entire party was experienced role players who loved getting in character. And the thing is that when your players are starting off absolutely fantastic, you have to come up with ways to get them, you know, have their character be developed even more, which in my case involves throwing a lot of agonizing situations at them. But a way to specifically get them to reveal secrets, I found, is you either put the character in a situation where they have to watch somebody else go through something that they themselves have gone through in the past and see how they react now. There's a sort of like parallel to this in Twice Bitten, where, Kiva's sitting at the Wachter House dinner, listening to what has been done to Stella, and I assume that if Lady Wachter had not said anything about Strahd, that would have made Kiva really want to take down the Baron. Or the other thing you can do is you can have an NPC make blatantly wrong but reasonable sounding assumptions about them, because it's just a fact of human nature. Like, somebody makes wrong assumptions about you, you want to correct them. So that will usually get characters talking about what their actual history or hometown or past experiences have been like.
What about you, Linus?
I mean, I used my best idea in the actual session.
I mean, is that something that you kind of...
No, here's a very different one. You're not running COS anymore, trust me, and now give your villain a pet Nothic who has an ability that magically learns a random secret about its target, and then have our villain also be a monologue type.
Amazing.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, actually, like, Nothics in general, like, they're, like, spoilers, I guess, but, like, we got rid of that rule. Like, in the Amber Temple, like, super, super late game, there's a room full of a bunch of Nothics, and, like, as written, Nothics, there's the stat block doesn't say much, and, the location description in the Amber Temple doesn't say much, but according to their lore, there's a lot of information there about how they act and what they do. And so what I wound up doing in my second campaign was I had this whole, like, set of notes prepped for, like, as the PCs approached, how are these Nothics going to read their minds? What secrets are they going to get? How are they going to taunt them about this? And see how the PCs will react. Unfortunately, the PC saw, like, a big old green eye staring at them around the door and said, just, nope, we're not fucking going through in that room. So it was very sad for me. But I just that idea of, like, using that to, like, prey on your PC's fears and thoughts of weakness and using that to open them up, I think is really interesting.
All right, we're not going to the Amber Temple, right?
Hell yeah,
I
we
don't
are.
think so.
Party.
We'll watch every treasure be there. I swear to God.
I did not know that room existed until you just said it, Dragna.
Me
And
neither.
I've, like, read through the book.
Yep. No, it's pretty cool.
What else you got for us, Twy?
All right, let me look. Here's a fun one. So, as we've been seeing, life without a Taraka reading is different. So, I guess I wanted to talk about that because, like, post Barovia, it's made the game very, very different, at least from how I ran it, and I'm interested to see kind of what y'all thought of that, how you've been affecting you, and kind of just generalized thoughts on it. And also, when are we going to get the fucking reading? Oh my god.
Yeah, I would love to hear what you guys think of this, because this has been definitely on my mind a lot, so I'm very curious to know what your takes are.
I'm actually doing something a little similar in that I've pushed the reading out. I'm dropping a little bit of hints here and there, but I definitely want my players to come to the reading, not the other way around. Um, uh, but from a player perspective, knowing that that's on the horizon, and yet being hindered by our own characters' fear and paranoia and anxiety, as a player gets kind of frustrating. But not any way towards anybody in particular. Just it's that like that's what you're supposed to be doing, and yet you want to be committed to the scene, want to be committed to the game and the character, and like you know, A, we don't know that that's a thing, and B, why would we leave Valakai? It's totally safe. Except for when Strahd shows up.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely second that and say that like game perspective, it's been fascinating because like I do think when we deliberately seek out the reading, and I think we're gonna have to eventually, like unless we specifically run into Esmeralda, it's gotta be a thing. I feel like it's going to have more of a meaning in the sense of we are taking the action to go find a way to deal with Strahd. It's it's kind of setting the wheels of fate in motion in a way. Though as a player, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And like one thing I think that kind of specifically disincentivizes it is how the suggested milestones for COS are formed. Like kind of, there are natural ones around combat victories, around clearing out a location, and around stuff like getting one of the treasures. It's very hard, and since it's kind of very hard to stumble across a treasure without that direction and without that kind of immediate impetuous and means to go get levels, it's like, ah, we kind of need to get to level 5 to survive. How are we going to do that?
I'm also kind of curious because if we're not going to start picking up um, the items and also not starting to clear out areas until quite a ways after this, when our characters have realized that they gotta be heroes, it's likely that we will have earned several milestones in a row very quickly. And usually in campaigns, like I would recommend and I have recommended other DMs to not give them like consecutive level ups and just sort of like merge them into one milestone. But I am afraid of what might happen if we try to take on Castle Ravenloft at like level 8 because we accomplish things too quickly.
Honestly, to play devil's advocate to that, I think that there's been a lot of discussion of like Strahd's power level and the items and Strahd's phasing and such, and like I actually did some soul searching after I ran the Strahd Must Die Tonight strategy, where like I had the specific Strahd strategy, I executed it, and it proved really effective. And then going back to it, I reanalyzed my tactics and I felt maybe his strategy isn't as effective as I thought it was, and I guess what I mean to say by this is that Strahd is not. Strahd is meant to be binary. Strahd is meant to be easily defeatable if you have I don't know the 3 items, all 7 Horcruxes, whatever the fuck you want to call it, all 8 gym badges. Like the point is that and something I think that I'm trying to focus on with Twice Bitten is that by choosing to become the hero and by becoming the hero capable of finding these artifacts, defeating Strahd, I think even at level 8 or 9 is still I think very feasible. Given the very significant impact that the Sun Sword, the Holy Symbol, and if you find it, the icon have on his efficacy in combat. Like obviously it's harder, but I actually don't think it's impossible to defeat him at like level 8 or 9.
Now, is this a hint that you're gonna like play softball or?
No, this is me saying that I think that I accidentally cheated when I ran Strahd Must Die Tonight, and I had a misinterpretation of how the stealth rules worked.
Oof.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be
okay then.
intriguing. Yeah. But yeah, no, I am interested to see how it goes. Especially as like I'm I feel like our particular character choices, not without knowing anyone's particular multi-classes, I think we need the levels to be effective. So I'm curious how that's going to pan out. Hopeful,
I
but
mean,
curious.
from like a reductive perspective, Taroko reading gives hooks. Like, and Velaki can also give hooks. So I don't think there's a huge problem delaying the reading. I just think it'll make the game more linear. Like, we can't refuse the Bones Quest if it's the only thing in the world that we have.
Yeah, no, I get you.
I
Although I
will
am going
say,
to laugh my
What's
ass
the
off
Bones
if we
Quest?
have to backtrack to like Barovia Village again.
Oh yeah, there was that missing cat in the village. We should find it.
Right, yeah, Mad Mary. Should see what's up with her.
Something that I wanted to get some of your all insight into was the idea of becoming adventurers. I think Kiva probably has the kind of clearest kind of motivation for wanting to kill Strahd. And I think that we'll all get there. But like, are you all anticipating having reasons, or is like just being there enough?
Okay, I think that for Lillison, just being here is enough, but for a different reason, possibly than you might be thinking. She is feeling like this is a challenge that she can actually apply herself to. And because of that, and not because, she particularly needs to hate Strahd, um, she wants to figure this out. She wants to win this game. She wants to, like, have done something with her life. And so that's basically what is pushing her on, the power of spite, which has, it's a good power source for when you need it.
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think actually, like in lieu of the Taroko reading, like obviously there are other hooks at a lower level, even in absence of a cleric or paladin to the Bones quest. There's maybe an option to bring Irina to Kresk, and if you bring everybody to Velaki, say this place sucks, let's go to Kresk in the Abbey instead, and then you bring everybody to the pool. I think that'd be like a good milestone point. Like other options, maybe rescuing Arabelle. Obviously, the winery is a potential milestone. But I think like in terms of driving the plot forward, I think that like kind of going back to our first topic, that the Strahd encounters are actually really critical for making sure that the PCs have this driving momentum behind them. Because if Strahd isn't regularly appearing, the PCs might feel that they have all the time in the world to like find out how to escape Barovia. Like especially this is D&D. This is not 2020, or I guess 2020. No one's going anywhere fast. This is not 2019 where like you have class in the morning and you have like a job to go to and you've got like an appointment on Saturday. Like this is not that. Barovia, you can just take your time, and like if it takes you a year to get out in D&D, like it's fine. It takes a year. But I think with Strahd being this very ever-present force that is constantly forcing the PCs forward and saying, this location is not safe, try the fuck again, I think it forces them to seek out these kind of, more desperate aims, like, hey, maybe the Vistani know how to get out of here, or hey, maybe the Abbey has something of help, or hey, maybe we can, make friends by, assisting on this quest or whatever. And I think that's very important for making sure that the plot doesn't stall, because if Strahd's not making regular appearances, then without the Troka reading, there's not really much to do. Or at least there is stuff to do, but there's not really much reason to do it in a timely manner.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And to answer Jack's question, I think Erthrendir has motivation to get out. I think turning him to the point where he's an adventurer and a hero is gonna take more time. Like, I think that's the big barrier to cross. Like, it's easy to keep that momentum going when, okay, we got to keep moving. We got to keep trying things. We got to keep, try every option to get out of here. But once it becomes obvious that the only way to get out is to kill Strahd, I think he's going to have a pretty serious crisis where it's just like, okay, is that something that he's able to do, that he's able to conceptualize himself doing, especially given his prior experiences with it? And I'm really interested to see how it pans out, but it's going to take a push.
Hard same.
Harder same.
Yeah, no, I feel like Metreon, Earthrendir, and Amity are gonna be just kind of the trio of, but should we really though? I mean, not that we all want to get out, but like as far as directly facing down Strahd.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the less we can deal with him, the better. I think is at least where Metron is. I assume Amity is there as well.
I don't know raw how much of a hint there is at determining that killing Strahd is the way to disperse the mists. Like, I don't know what in the campaign actually tells you this.
Yeah, that was something I'd wondered, because like they'd mentioned that the only mention we've gotten of it is Irina saying that previous adventurers have gone up against him, but I don't think we've gotten anything explicit.
I guess knowing that the mists appeared when Strahd appeared is a clue.
True, but we don't know that yet. Or wait, yeah, we do. Lady Water told us.
Yeah, I think like beyond that, I think the clearest clue is if/when you get the dinner invite, it says, I'm the one who brought you here. I'm the one with the power to make you leave. And I think that's, in some cases, very helpful to pushing PCs over the edge, saying, okay, this guy has the power to let us go. If he won't do it willingly, we're going to fucking shake him down until he lets us out. And that might turn into, just kill him and maybe it'll get better. But I don't think there's an explicit...
What dinner's for.
I think that's like a good 30% of the reason for the dinner. It's letting them know that, hey, Strahd is the asshole who's trapped you in here. Doing something involving Strahd will probably let you out.
Rad.
The other 70s for the puppet.
Yes,
100%.
Absolutely. And the organ. They gotta have the organ.
Oh, very, very true.
What's next, Twy?
Doop-a-doop-doop-doo. Give me several hot seconds.
Well, you're looking at that, actually. I have something I've been curious about. Given, kind of flashing back for a second to the Strahd encounters, there was a lot of, inter-party conflict over that. A lot of tensions and tempers running high. And I'm kind of curious to know, how you guys approached that and how you navigated that.
Mostly by crying in a corner.
Understandable. Wish to expand on that?
Yes, please.
Well, Bren already asked a question, which is, tied very closely to this. So, Bren asked, in the most recent episode, we saw what I consider to be one of the first expressed instances of emotional vulnerability from Lillison. Was this a conscious choice, or was it something that came to you in the moment? Talking about where Lillison opens up to Earthrendir. And Bren goes on to say, this question can be expanded to all players, whether offering meaningful glimpses at the PC's interiority comes spontaneously in scenes, if it is calculated, or a bit of both. So, something that I had touched upon sort of behind the scenes during, when the stream is on the break and the rest of us are just chatting in Discord by ourselves. Usually I'm very good at separating the character mentality from my own mentality, but for whatever reason, the way that Earthrendir argues really gets to me, me personally. It is very effective. And, props to Twy for, creating a character who, is so fully fleshed out.
Abjectly punchable.
So the thing is that scene in particular was something that was planned out of character, because of Twy and I both felt that the tension from the previous scene where Earthrendir and Lillison were shouting at each other it just did not feel great, and we wanted to put in some effort to make sure that the in-character dynamic was healed. And so that scene was more planned than usual. In character, Lillison also had some aspects of that scene planned out. She wanted to, open up a little bit to Earthrendir and try to see if they could get a better idea of where each other was coming from, things like that. The emotional breakdown portion of it, which I think is what Bren is asking about, was semi-spontaneous. But yeah, there's with this party, there has been an awful lot of just characters shouting at each other because they're all stressed and scared. And I think that all of the characters are also slowly realizing that this is not a very helpful dynamic, and it's probably what Strahd wants. And so I think that we might be moving towards a direction where the characters are getting over themselves a little bit more and trying to find more constructive ways to deal with all of this stress that's been placed on them.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely echo that and say, at least for me, when as far as both how much of like planning out emotional scenes and like checking when I'm gonna actually kind of bear a heart or two is it kind of comes on the fly, because like Kaya mentioned, we wanted to do that scene that was important to kind of clear the air and also develop things a bit. But also, I think it's kind of, you have an idea, at least for me, I have an idea of how much Earthrendir's willing to share with people he likes. And then there's a portion beyond that, which is how much he will share with people he likes when he is either really stressed or really sad or in a real emotional state, or when he's kind of doing something on accident. So I typically kind of try and keep in mind of, okay, normally he's going to operate under this assumption, but if something slips out or if something's getting really heated or there's kind of a emotional breakthrough, then I'll let X, Y, or Z step forward. And it's been fun because like I've really enjoyed how the character dynamics are starting to play out. Like I feel like this is a bit of a tangent, but I feel like every member of the party has kind of a unique outlook on everyone else, and I love that. Like I don't there's yeah, I'm rambling, I apologize, but yeah, to summarize, I think that I will get back to y'all when I have a coherent thought.
No, I think
please.
that's really good.
Please keep rambling. This is the period of time that's set aside specifically for us to ramble.
Point taken.
I guess like if I could add just a quick qualifier to that, I think like, there's this kind of, implicit assumption, like the idea of like, did you plan a conversation versus happening naturally? That has this idea that, planning a conversation is some way, scripting or artificial. And I think, obviously rule one of managing, of dealing with quote unquote problem players or problem characters is it is an out of character issue, deal with it out of character. And I think, this is a very slightly different flavor, but here, where you've got situations where characters are very routinely clashing and, tense with each other and not getting along, like that's not something that, comes out just in play and is resolved just in play. Like that's something that needs a very deliberate intervention, not just by the DM, but by the players being, mature and engaged storytellers who, aren't doing this just because they're rubbing each other the wrong way or because, quote unquote, that's what my character would do, but because they are looking to, explore and, eventually heal this relationship. And I think that's a really important point, if I could just like add that little qualification, which is that, players can definitely and should have these kinds of conversations about where they're going and how they want to develop these relationships, not just with the DM, but with each other. And I think, encouraging that is a very healthy part of any game, but especially one that gets as tense and dark as this adventure.
Thank you, Dragna. And also I wanted to add that, yes, I don't want to give off the impression that like anything in this game is scripted per se.
Oh god, no.
Yeah, no. This planning, as I refer to it, like was basically like, let's have a talk, like an talk, on the same
Yes.
level that you might wake up and be like, all right, tomorrow I'm gonna have to go talk to my brother about how like he constantly, keeps on, asking favors from me or whatever. It's basically just the intention of like there's gonna be a talk, and nothing was planned beyond that.
Yep. And I am very happy with how it turned out.
I am too.
Not a single insight check was rolled on either side.
I invited you to make insight checks.
I didn't see that until afterward.
Alas.
Also, Earthrendir wouldn't have at that moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the way that it played out seems more earnest on his behalf.
Yeah.
I think Metron would be someone who might be, shooting out insight checks, but I think that Earthendir is a bit more earnest than some other people. So for him to like have this moment of vulnerability made sense.
Metron's gonna get his chance.
Let's go.
Yeah, like actually, Jack and Linus, do you guys have any thoughts on those kinds of tense moments and where your PC's relationships are right now as they stand insofar as the rest of the members of the cast?
I'm actually not 100% sure where Amity stands in some of the minds of other members of the cast. I do like the tense moments, and I'm sure they'll keep coming up over the course of the campaign. Although in the end, the threat of a stronger enemy will always bring us back together.
We're
tear
stuck
us apart.
together. That too.
Yeah. To quote a philosopher who I look after a lot, or look up to a lot, Joanne the Scammer. I'm a messy bitch who lives for drama. So I'm totally okay with and into the kind of clashing that happens. I think when you have the kind of oil and water dynamics that some of the players, or not the players, but the characters have, it's important as players to then, after those moments or even before, to just kind of check in with players and just be like, hey, this is I just want to make sure that you're okay as a player and know that what's coming out of my mouth and what my actions are not reflective of how I feel about you personally. Because in those tense moments, it can, especially for people if they don't know each other well enough, that it might seem that way. I know I had to check in with Twy after I think it was the carriage, because
it was the carriage scene.
Yeah, because I was fine with it because that was incredible to watch and participate
so much
in.
fun. Oh my god!
But Metreon, I mean, it's probably one of the scariest moments of his life, and to see people that care is probably a strong word, but people whose existence he acknowledges being so, to him at least, at that moment, just being just disregarding their agency and their own safety to try and like pacify this despot, this monster that everyone's been talking about, just kind of threw him for a loop, and the effects are still being felt by that.
Yep.
I'll also toss in, there was also an out of character check-in that I did with Serena around the time that Kiva was charmed by Strahd, and that is why Lillison set up the whole once it wears off, come find me, and that talk was established as this is going to happen, and hopefully it will help.
Yeah. I will say on a personal level, I've been really enjoying how tense the group has gotten. Like, it's good television. I mean, it's not television, but
it's entertaining to me.
It's fucking wonderful.
But the inverse to that is, you also don't want to be overbearing or like overly clingy or affectionate or just too familiar with people in a way that maybe they're not comfortable with. I know I've messaged Linus at some point saying, hey, if you're not okay with the dynamic that Metreon and Amity have right now, just let me know and we can change it. Just because at the end of the day, it's about making the people who are playing this comfortable. It's not about, we're not, we're broadcasting this and we're performing it, but at the end of the day, it's a game that we're all participating in, and we need to be safe around each other and check in.
Yee. All right. Well, in that case, some more miscellaneous questions, unless anyone else.
Did you say s'mores?
I wish. I would kill for a s'more right now. But yeah.
If you send me your address, I will mail you stuff for s'mores.
Oh my god, please.
I will genuinely consider it. It's tempting.
You know what I love are like s'mores, but that have been dipped in like dark chocolate. So
Oh, that sounds incredible. I need
God.
that in my life.
Oh my god, because
They're
like
so
the
good.
bitterness. Oh, okay. So NPCs that the players are looking forward to meeting in this campaign. I want. I already loved Blinksky. I love Blinksky. I will always love Blinksky. I really, really want to see Dragna's take on Baba, because she's like such
That
a
was gonna be my answer,
weird
too.
fucking character. And like there's both too much and too little to go on about her and her motivations and what she wants. And so I am very curious how Dragna's going to play her.
So say we all.
Yeah, I know how much you
Dude, I
love to
fucking.
play her.
Oh
so-
my god, I love her so much that my hate for her is unbounded. There's oh my god, like at least Morgantha makes sense. She's just an old lady who's cackling, and she wants to kill some children. Whereas like Babali Saga is just like this old bitch that's like, forgive my language, just like living in a swamp. She's basically Shrek, and like some people come into her swamp and she's upset about it. Like, who is that? Like at least Shrek, he's Mike Myers, with a bad Scottish accent, and he hates donkey. Like you understand that. But like Babali Saga, I have nothing to work with.
So I'm going to give you a reference. It's a very specific reference, but if you like go to YouTube and find it, and maybe just watch the episode, it might help you. And I will chastise Serena later for still not having watched The Golden Girls. But there is a character on The Golden Girls named Frida Claxton. She's only been in one episode, and I'll send it to you. But her name is Frida Claxton, and she is essentially the most miserable, life-hating, nihilistic crone that these lovable four older women have to deal with throughout this entire episode. And her actions are based in pure just hatred of people and spite.
So I just looked her up on the Golden Girls wiki, and her quote is, "With my binoculars, I have a terrific view in your bedroom window. I think some of the stuff you do is illegal. I'm looking into it."
Yeah.
Wow, she's perfect.
She's great. Yeah. But yeah, so when I think of her, I just think of like this miserable, misanthropic woman whose only affection has gone into this weird vampire dude, and it's not based in any reality that's substantial. It's just kind of fabricated in her head, and she just kind of spends her time sending scarecrows to mess with were ravens, and she's a woman after my own heart, personally. But
I actually, like, when I was doing the Berez Reloaded chapter, which is still a work in progress, I actually, like, took the time to calculate how long it takes her to make these scarecrows, and, like, this lady spends a lot of time making scarecrows.
She has
I think she
nothing
needs
else
a
to
new
do.
hobby. She needs a new hobby.
I think that making
Gardens.
scarecrows is an improvement over her last hobby, which was, micromanaging Strahd.
Yes.
I mean, that's fair. That's entirely fair.
Also, Serena's weigh-in on this question is that she would love to see how you play the abbot.
Ooh,
Oh, I
God.
love that guy. He's... Yeah. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say, I have a feeling, like, something about, like, you specifically, Dragna, I just had a feeling, like, oh God, this is gonna be terrifying. Take that as a compliment or an insult, as you wish.
I will happily take it as a compliment. Thank you.
Personally, I don't think we're going to get this far, but I want to see Dragna's Exithanter. Having already seen the parody Exithanter back in Honey Heist, but I want to see how he pulls off actual Exithanter.
Yes, and guest star Zio as Neferon.
Yes!
Yeah,
Perfect.
can't wait. What about you, Linus?
Well, Morty Wardy, obviously,
Oh my God.
but also the people's hero, Victor V. Volakovich.
Oh God.
Are we ever going to get to actually meet him? Like,
You might. Earthrendeer has a plan.
Oh.
I kind of have a crush on Victor for no good reason.
Wow.
It's not as if he's a
Same.
good character. It's not as if I even made him like a good or redeemable character in my campaign, but like the idea of him.
Yeah, right?
Just a little gothic dude with a bunch of skeletal cats, learning magic, trying to make a way. He's cool.
Killing the
I mean,
staff.
Killing the staff, yeah.
It's not a phase, Mom.
Outstanding.
I'm also really excited to meet Aragol for reasons.
Ooh.
And Esmeralda for reasons.
God, I love playing Esmeralda, and Ariel's fun too. But Esmeralda is like probably like top 3 of my faves to play in this campaign.
She's great. All right, so all right. In that case, let's go to the remaining burning questions that we've got. This is one that I think we were all pretty interested in. How has making characters that aren't explicitly adventurers affected the campaign overall?
I don't know, Dragna, you tell us.
I mean, we kind of touched upon this earlier, but like, if the PCs aren't explicitly adventurers, there's a lot of less incentive to just bite random hooks lying around. And not just bite random hooks, but go looking for random hooks. Like, you lot, there's not a chance in a million years you would go into, Old Bone Grinder, whereas, a party that's generically adventurers will just say, hey, a spooky windmill, let's go in there because we have 5 minutes to spare. Oh, whoops, we got ourselves into a CR, 8 encounter. Whoopsies. I think there's a lot of, the module plays a lot more fairly for non-adventurers because there's that lack of incentive to go into dangerous places just for the heck of it. But also there's a lot less incentive to go out and do things that are accessible to you, it's a lot less likely that you'll just, say, hey, let's, go to the winery, or let's, go to Cressitus to check it out, or let's go see, Argynvostolt. You've learned about Argynvostolt from, 2 different places, and, my other campaign heard, Dead Dragon, let's check it out. Whereas you guys are like, that's haunted, let's not do there. That sounds fucking terrible. Let's absolutely not do that. So I think, there's a big difference there in that, the modules areas tend to actually self-segregate really neatly for non-adventurers, whereas an adventuring party really plays up the sandbox aspect of the campaign, where they really can just go anywhere if they feel curious enough. And there are some advantages to that, but there are some very real disadvantages of that, which is a fuck ton of TPKs.
It's not too late.
Never too late.
Still wander into one.
There is a distinction there between adventurous parties and I don't know, video game parties who just go everywhere because it's there. For example, if my party in my game gets a hook to somewhere dangerous, then they're gonna go check it out. But if someone just tells them, oh yeah, there's Dead Dragon haunted spooky place here, it'll kill you, then they have no reason to go there. So there's 2 types of adventurers here. One that's willing to take risks in order to accomplish your goals, and the other one that's this is a video game. I will go to a place. It is on the map. I must garner EXP.
Yeah, totally. It's like that difference in motivation of I want to be a part of this adventure because I want to be heroic. I want to feel heroic versus I need to scour every inch of this map to see if I get all the hidden items.
Yeah.
Because if I miss that thing under the waterfall, I'll be pissed. Yeah. To the original question, though, just as a player, it is very because when I played Curse of Strahd first, I'd never read the module, and so I was coming in virgin white. So it was this. We went to Bone Grinder at level 3, crazy. And we went in. We thought it would be a whole siege, not realizing that it's 3 night hags and they're just going to blow us up with lightning bolts. But it was that idea of traditional D&D being you just go in and you if you hit the thing hard enough, you'll kill it and you'll get XP. And the writers will always balance things for you. Obviously, Curse of Strahd is not the case. So as a player now in Twice Bitten, I've got to kind of have that caution, and it's definitely been helpful in kind of keeping my own curiosity as a player in check versus Metreon's lack thereof.
I'll say it's been really enjoyable because Personally, I end up being the motive force in a lot of D&D groups I'm in, just kind of by being I'm enthusiastic, and I actually take notes, and I end up being a sort of motor for a lot of things. So getting to play a character that's not about, well, let's go help people, let's go do what the people in authority asked us to do because it'll move the game forward, it's the best. I love this. I love being able to say, no, fuck you. Fuck the horse you rode in on. I'm not doing that. That's not gonna get me killed. Show me a warrant. So it is coupled slightly with frustration, especially in Curse of Strahd, where I can't go, does anyone have any problems we can solve for XP? Going once, going twice. But outside of that, it's been a lot of fun.
Beautiful. I think we got a question about certain dreams, if you guys wanted to get into that bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
My favorite Fleetwood Mac songs.
It really is.
All right, so where do we want to start? We've got two consummate dreamers in the party that like to dream big.
Which disturbed tiefling shall we settle upon?
Right? Let's ladies first.
Sure. So I will say for mine before Dragna gets in that I suggested something to Dragna for my character, and then he took it, he spun it in like a whole new direction that I wasn't expecting. And I will say, like, I'm theorizing along with you, like on who those mice in the last one represent. Like I have not been let in on the ultimate secret here.
Yeah, I'll actually echo like what Lina said. We're like, this was something that he said that inspired me, a certain direction that he wanted to take his character that I don't think you guys have learned yet, but that provided a really easy way in for this thing that I've decided to do. And I'll actually just clarify it because a number of people have asked for the mechanical like rules as written reasons for this, and a few people got it right in the Discord server, which is that if you look at the marks of horror on page 7 of the module, which I will actually be doing a fireside chat about this weekend. There is a certain section called foreshadowing, which specifically suggests telling your players about a horrible truth yet to be revealed via prophetic dreams. And for better or for worse, I felt that Amity would be the best person to deliver these dreams to. And, you can see that as on a few occasions thus far, she's received dreams foretelling of, terrible, horrible events or secrets or encounters to be revealed in the future. So I think, it's been fun for me coming up with this very unique symbolism because obviously Amity, she relies on, these Aesop's Fable-esque aesthetics, which provide a very interesting symbolic way to kind of present this sort of prophetic information instead of just, leaning on a very, oh, hey, you see, Strahd, here's Strahd, he's at the crossroads, he's looking real spooky. Like, you can, like, dress it up in all sorts of metaphors and symbolism and allegories, and I think that makes it a lot more interesting because of the kind of character Amity is. But yes, that is a long-winded way to say that Amity's been a lot of fun to make these dreams for, and I'm excited to see where they go next and how she responds.
It's been interesting because she's obviously the storyteller of the group, and seems to love to tell stories. So, like, the fact that she's having these vivid dreams and hasn't told anyone about them is kind of an interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
I told you about them.
Yeah, didn't she tell Metreon?
Well,
Rarely.
A little bit. But I'm talking about everybody else.
You're deflecting here because your dreams are sus.
Yeah, Metreon
what
real
dreams?
sus.
What dreams? What dreams? I dream of puppy cats and rain clouds. That's all.
Yeah, Metron, what is all that about?
I don't know. I'm still not quite sure myself. But it has been interesting to experience them. And yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
I will let you know that I already have an instinctive hatred for Mr. Skeleton Man. Just already. 2 scenes. Hate him. Want him to
The
die,
visual
want him
of
to fall
like just
down a
like
cliff.
this. Yeah, just the visual of like the disembodied skeletal arm.
It's really good.
He's half man, half skeleton. A skeleton man.
I
Oh, Daddy.
love I love Mr. Skeleton Man. Like, I want to play a villain like that despicable and punchable.
Hey, he hasn't even
So-
done anything yet. What are you talking about? He's perfectly
Nice
innocent.
choice of
Listen how
words.
he talks to him.
Mr. Skeleton Man has done nothing wrong.
He has delivered a threat effectively, which I'm not going to put, any sort of moral judgment on. I'm just going to say it's a very effective tool, one that Lillison would love to learn if she ever learned about this, and one I would love to be able to copy for my DMing style.
Kaya, all I'm going to
Well-
say is that I'm glad you're hopefully my friend and not my enemy.
Dragna, I'm glad we're friends too. Let's keep it that way.
Oh, indeed.
Fair.
On that note,
Yes.
On that note, yes, we were gonna release the results of the Deadpool voting as they currently stand.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, let's round that off. What do we got?
Well, we're getting to it. Does anyone have that pulled up, or shall I?
we'll sing to you in the interim.
I got it.
Please do. Alright, thank you.
So, at the current moment, we have 20 responses in our Deadpool. And in order of least likely to most likely to die that you guys think, it stands at Lillison with 0% of people thinking she's going to die. I don't understand why. She's already
What?
proven that, she can die once. So, yeah. Amity with 10% of the vote. Metreon with 15% of the vote.
How dare you?
Airthrandir with 35% of the vote.
Really? Really,
Yeah.
people? Have we
Yeah.
been watching the same show?
And Kiva with 40% of the vote.
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah, that one hurts.
So yeah, when the next party death occurs, we will go through the responses, count up everybody who voted for, what turned out to be the accurate guess, and then we will announce the winners on stream.
Possibly very shortly when we are mobbed to death by twig blights.
Love it.
Well,
It'd be like that.
Well,
All right.
Is that it?
I
Is it
believe
Halloween
so.
yet? Is it Halloween yet?
It's always Halloween. It's been
It is
Halloween
always
since
Halloween.
Labor Day.
It's Halloween in our hearts.
There you
Always.
go. All right.
always Halloween in our hearts.
What's everyone's
well-
favorite scary movie? Go.
Nope. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We will see you this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for episode 13, unlucky number 13, on Halloween afternoon/eve, depending on your time zone. We will have our March of the Dead slideshow from those who submitted their characters. Get a nice little graveyard cooking, as well as a new fireside chat about how to use horror in your Curse of Strahd game. So thank you all for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode. Say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Boo.
Bye, everyone.